All right, thank you. My talk today is animal communication, and I grew up with animals. We always had an animal in our house of one sort or another. What got me into thinking about animal communication was I met a lady one day. In fact, Karen, it was your godmother, and she gave me a reading. She walked up to me. I didn't really know about mediumship, really, even though I was doing it without realizing it. And she said that she said, "There's some horses with you. Would you like to hear about them?" And this was, I had nothing about me that said anything about horses. And she brought forward my horse Conan, who had passed away, who I was really close to. And she went into a total detail, completely described him. And then she communicated with him, his spirit, and she told me that he was following me around everywhere. In fact, he was in Walmart with me. And she said, and I'd been to Walmart, and she said that he explained about how he died, which was exactly true. And then he said that he appreciated what I had done visiting him at the barn when he was hospitalized, which there's no way she could have known that. And that he still follows me when I go across the street to feed my neighbor's horses. So it was, without question, she was communicating with him. So I decided at that point that maybe I'm going to investigate all this, and so I started studying mediumship and learning the ethics of it and so on, and it went on from there. And I thought back to other times I had communicated with my animals without realizing it, and everybody can communicate with their animals. It's just listening to them. It helps if you meditate first to open yourself up, and then be prepared to listen to them, what thoughts come into your head. And the best book I've come across is this one. It's Hear Them Speak by Babette DeJong. I'm not sure she's local or not, but one person that she refers to in this book is local. And she's a friend of mine, so she's the one who recommended this book. And I can't recommend this book highly enough. It's a workbook, and you can work your way through it, whatever speed you want. And I'm about to start my third reading of it. And what she does is recommend, when you're doing animal communication, to write about, and I haven't done that yet, so I'm going to start doing that. Write about what you're experiencing, and then that gives you something to work back to. And so let's see here. Okay. Sometimes, like if you're walking in the woods, this happens to me pretty often, you'll feel someone looking at you. And if you look, quite often it's a deer. Deer are very sensitive, and you can feel them looking at you. And so that's one animal that is a wild animal that it's easier to connect with than others. And one of the ethics of talking to animals is that you have to ask the animal permission. Otherwise, you're invading their autonomy. So you ask them permission and listen, and they'll communicate whether they want to communicate with you. And one way to tell if they're communicating is they get kind of a dreamy look in their eyes, because they're thinking. Their communication is thinking. It's thoughts. And I found with animals, a lot of times it's visual. So if you visualize something, and they'll visualize something. But now Babette can actually hear the talk, and that comes over time, like Jenny did when she was communicating with Conan. She was actually conversing with him. So, but that will take time. I had a dog that I was involved in rescuing years ago, Pico, and what happened with her is she was a abuse case, and she was kept at this kennel I was working at. I've always worked with animals, and she was vicious. I mean, she'd leap at the fence and try to chew through it at anybody who walked by her kennel. And one day I went in there, I had to show someone the kennels, and he tried to attack me there in the kennels, and so I ran to Pico. And I said, if you come any closer, I'm letting this dog loose. And he ran out. So then Pico acted different towards me after that. And one day I went in, she was gone. And I asked what happened, and they said, well, they took her to be euthanized because the court case is over. So I called the vet, and they hadn't done it yet. So I went down there, and here's this really vicious dog. And I went in there, and I said, well, I'm taking her. And they argued with me, but no one argues with me after a while. And so I sat down, and she climbed up on my lap. And so then we had a bond, but she was a vicious dog. And one day she was, I let her run loose. We were living between two cemeteries, so we had this big enclosed area. It was like 8 acres or something. And I'd let her run loose, and then I'd call her, and I couldn't find her, so I went out there, and she had got in some trash. And, you know, a dog like that, you don't just take food away from him. So I went over there, and I was trying to take this bag away, and she got really snarly and everything. And I got so scared, I picked up a board, and I was holding the board. And then I thought, what chance do I have against this dog? This dog is so fast, I don't have any chance at all anyway, and what's the point of this? So I just threw the board down, and she leaped and licked me in the face. And after that, I realized I could think and visualize, and I'd visualize, okay, I'm feeding you, Pico, and she'd come running from, you know, half a mile away sometimes, and she'd come running, looking expectant at me. So it's with her, it was visualization of feeding her. And let's see here. Okay, and it is hard to communicate with your own pets, and the author here admitted it too, because your emotions are involved. And it's, for me, okay, I'll recommend while I'm thinking of it here, there's, if I have it, maybe I never wrote down. Oh yeah, there's some animal communication sites that you have to practice. I mean, you have to practice regularly. So you can work with your own animals, meditate first, and open yourself up to whatever they have to let you know. And the best thing, first you have to ask their permission, and then what you do is ask them questions. And it should be open-ended questions, like how do you feel about rolling in the grass or something, and then that's a way of opening up the communication, something that's fun for them that they like, and then they can get further and you ask them questions, but not yes or no questions. It should be, otherwise they might not answer you. And a lot of times animals will not answer you. They have traumas and so on that they just can't answer you right then, or sometimes it just takes time. And with Babette here, she said that one dog, it took her about 8 months before she could finally communicate because the dog was so traumatized. Let's see what I have to say. Okay, oh yeah, I had some resources here, as long as I think of it. There's 2 websites that I use to practice on, because they're accepting of people practicing. You just let them know I'm practicing or I'm a communicator, and it depends really on my mood whether I want to say I'm practicing or not. And one is Animal Empaths and Communicators. That's a Facebook group. And the other is Animal Communication. And sometimes the people don't follow the ethical rules, and it's the same as for mediumship. As far as ethics go, is you cannot diagnose, and a lot of people try to diagnose an animal. It's illegal, because you're not a veterinarian, but people will try to diagnose an animal, and it's okay to say, well, I'm feeling like they might have an issue in their spine or something, but see a vet. You should always say, if the dog is sick, always say see a vet. And you also should not treat a dog. That's up for a veterinarian too, because people have their own, sometimes they're pretty wacky ideas of what are healing things, and sometimes they're really harmful for the dogs or cats. And so many things that they didn't know were poisonous back when, they know are poisonous now, and they're still coming up with things like, raisins, for instance. Who would think? But it can kill, a little box of raisins can kill a husky. So it's not up to you to treat the dog, but it is something for you to it does help if you do energy healing with a dog. That's separate, or an animal. I'm just talking dogs right now. With an animal, you can do energy healing to make them feel better, but in no way should you tell the owner they're cured. They still need to see a vet. It just will help the animal feel more comfortable, you hope, if the dog is open for that. Sometimes the animal is so ill that that even the energy healing. And also, a lot of times people think a communicator can find a missing animal for them, and that is really hard. That's one of the hardest things to do in your animal communicator, because you're trying to see it from the animal's point of view, where they are, and what you might see is just trees, and because a lot of times they're so scared they're hiding somewhere, and so they don't read street signs or whatever. So it's really difficult. What I do, instead of trying to, I try to see where the animal is, like with remote viewing. I try to see where the animal is, but like I said, the dog or cat will be hiding somewhere. So you might just see under the top of a building or something. And so I use my own knowledge of the best way to find an animal, and especially putting out posters here and there. And so you've got that set up, put out notices everywhere, and that helps towards getting the animal. And then I tell the owner to put something that's scented out in the area of their own scent, the owner's scent, especially if they put it near the sign that has the number on it. And then I try to communicate to the animal to look for, and they might have to have a pretty wide pattern, to look for the scented thing and the lie on it. And if it's near the sign, then they have a higher chance of being found. In the meantime, the owner will be going around looking for the animal and look at those sites that they're at, and or I'll ask the animal to go towards, not to, I always make a point, don't cross the street, and then tell them to go towards like a lit up building where the people seem friendly, or if you feel that someone's friendly, go up to them, because the owner's already put the information out there, you hope. So you get people who argue with you over everything, that they'll put out the information, and then you hope the dog will, the person who finds the dog will call, and you almost always they have to put out a reward for it too. Okay, and you should, like I said, you never should prescribe things or give home remedies. Listen to the animal. What else I could say? Here. Okay. My favorite thing is talking to animals that have passed away, because you can communicate with a photograph. And for me, it's almost the easiest thing, because you don't have that, cute dog, I want to pet it thing. You've just got this photograph, and you can easily communicate. And I'll just tell you one story real quick. Okay, I do on these sites, and I do it at lunch, and I had a cup of coffee sitting there, and I had my water sitting there, and I'm doing the animal communication, and there was this dog that I was connecting with through the photograph in the site. And all of a sudden, my coffee, and I hadn't touched it, went flying up in the air and went over there, and I'm like, but luckily I had a lid on it, but still, it splashed some, and then I was like kind of getting over that because I didn't touch it. And all of a sudden, my water flew up and went over. And so then I texted the owner, and I said, were you just drinking some coffee and it spilled or something? And I didn't hear back from them. And then about a day later, she texted me, and she said she cried all day because that was so evidential to her, because her German Shepherd would come up and knock the coffee out of her hand, and it'd go flying all the time. And so that dog, through the picture, connected with me enough to do something physical. And so you really can make a connection through a photograph. And I just feel it's, okay, sorry. But anyway, this is the best book that I've come across. Hear them speak. Thank you.